Welcome to SARCAN. Today we're going to take you on a tour to show you what SARCAN is and how we process your containers to turn them into new things. We got a lot to cover today, so why don't we get right into it.
SARCAN was started in 1988 by SARC, a provincial association that provides services to nonprofit organizations to expand their potential and support the work they do in their communities. SARC was awarded the exclusive contract with the provincial government to recycle used beverage containers in Saskatchewan. Over 30 years later, SARCAN is one of the most effective recycling systems in North America with over 70 locations and close to 800 employees. And it is all because of what we do with your recycling after you bring it in. Over the years, SARCAN has tailored and molded our recycling process to make it not only the most effective system, but also the most efficient system in North America. We will get to these processes soon, but first we will go from the very beginning. Let's hop into the depot and see where the whole process starts, and that's with your visit to SARCAN. Every day, thousands of people like yourselves bring their empty drink containers into SARCAN for recycling. To make it as convenient as possible for all these people coming in, there are a few ways to recycle with us. The first method is the one that has been around the longest and the one that most people are familiar with, and that's at the counter. You dump out your recycling and our recycling technician will count how many of each type of container you have, recording it on a tally sheet. It is important to remove the caps off your containers before they are counted, but don't worry, we can recycle those too. Once they have counted all your recycling, they will pass the tally sheet on to you, which you will take over to the cashier who will calculate how much you will get for your refund, so you can leave with some cash in your pocket. Another method to recycling at SARCAN is through the drop and go. The best part of this method is there's no wait in line. You simply sign into your drop and go account and enter in how many bags you are dropping off. Once your tags print, stick them on each of your bags or boxes. You leave those bags with us and away you go. Our recycling technicians count it the same as they do at the counter. This time they use an electronic tally sheet and your refund is then sent to you electronically, or you can come back and grab a check. The other method is reserved for large groups like schools, businesses, or fundraisers for sports teams. This requires you to call ahead and make an appointment to drop off the recycling, as it is usually a lot to drop off. Once it is dropped off, we go to work on it, counting and recording totals on tally sheets, just like at the counter and the drop and go, but the totals are much, much bigger. No matter which way you bring your recycling to SARCAN, our recycling technicians use the same precise process to make sure you get the right refund and that none of the different materials are mixed up. Speaking of keeping the containers separated, we can move on and dive into the SARCAN sort. The SARCAN sort is one of the main reasons why SARCAN is one of the most successful recycling systems in North America. Each different material type that SARCAN takes has its own very specific recycling process to turn it into something new. Having our recycling technicians hand sort the containers right at the chute reduces contamination and leads to the creation of very high quality new products. Our recycling process is all about giving your containers a useful second life. First, we have aluminum. Aluminum is one of the easiest and most efficient materials to recycle. It's so efficient that recycling just one aluminum can saves enough energy to power a TV up to 3 hours. The next most common material type is called PET, which stands for polyethylene terephthalate. We sort them by color, and they get used to make all sorts of things, including some of the t-shirts you see our staff wearing. Another type of plastic that we sort separately from everything else is HDPE. High-density polyethylene, which is a bit more rigid than PET. Almost all of the HDPE that SARCAN gets is milk jugs. The rest of the plastic that SARCAN takes is everything from number 3 plastic to number 7, but the most common is LDPE, low-density polyethylene. LDPE is used to make things like plastic juice jugs, coffee creamers, drinkable yogurt containers, and more. SARCAN's next sort is called aseptic polycoat, although you would probably know these better as Tetra or juice boxes. These containers are made up of a combination of paper, aluminum, and plastic layers. Very similar to aseptic polycoat, we take gable top polycoat, which you would recognize as a carton. the most popular one being the milk carton. These are made just like a septic, only without the aluminum. Another type of material we take are glass bottles. These are separated out and then clear is sorted from color. Standard beer bottles are sorted out because they actually get refilled. Every time a beer bottle goes through this process, they add a notch at the bottom, so you can tell how many times it's been refilled. Last but not least, actually, we get the least amount of this stuff. So I guess last and also least, we have tin. They are actually made out of tin-coated steel, but that doesn't quite have the same ring to it as tin cans. Now, once our recycling technicians have counted up your cans and bottles and sorted them into their separate streams, we have to move them from the chutes in the front to the back where we can prepare them for shipment. SARCAN gets a lot of containers through the doors every single day. So we also need a way to ship a lot of containers out the door as well, preferably all at once. To do that, we use specialized machinery that flatten the containers into these big bags called totes. There are a couple different kinds of flatteners SARCAN uses, but they all essentially have the same principle. Put full containers in one end and out the other end get fully flattened containers. Crushing our containers is another reason why SARCAN is at the top of the recycling systems. By flattening our containers before we send them out, we are able to drastically increase the number of containers we can send out in one shipment. This is important because it means that we can send out more containers using fewer trucks and less fuel than if we didn't flatten containers, helping keep SARCAN as green as possible. And with these flatteners, we can fit up to 3 totes worth of material into one. Of course, we can't use the totes for the glass that we get in. So to ship the glass that you bring us, we use these large steel bins. These bins can have totes stacked on top of them, or they can be double stacked themselves, once again to maximize the use of space for shipment. All of the glass that SARCAN gets goes into these bins except for the refillable beer bottles. Those all get stacked in boxes on special pallets and then wrapped with shrink wrap to make sure they don't move around during transport. Now, just quickly before we move on, there are a couple of other items that SARCAN accepts. Paint and electronics. SARCAN accepts used household paint for reusing and recycling. If you have any leftover household paint, bring it to SARCAN. If it can be reused, we will put it on the paint share shelf at the depot for other customers to take free of charge. If the paint is not reusable, we will recycle it. You can also bring in your end-of-life electronics like computers and their accessories, home audio equipment, phones, TVs and other display devices like monitors, and even e-book readers. So once these things stop working in your home, bring them to SARCAN and we will make sure they are recycled appropriately. So now that we have the bins full of glass and totes full of containers, let's take a look at the next phase of the recycling journey, shipping and transport. For this, SARCAN uses our very own fleet of transport trailers. The totes and bins fit perfectly stacked on top of each other and side by side on these trailers. So every little bit of space is used up efficiently. When we say we load the trailer, we really load it up. To get everything on the trailer, we use forklifts. Just as you have seen with our flatteners, we're always looking for better, more efficient machinery to help us recycle as best as we can while keeping our carbon footprint small. To meet that goal, the forklifts that we use in most of our depots are high-efficiency electric forklifts. These forklifts still pack the power to move our heavy items, like bins filled with glass, but do so using clean energy. Not only do these forklifts keep SARCAN green, they are safer to operate as well, making them a double win for the planet and for our staff. Once all the material has been loaded on the trailers and secured, that trailer is ready to go on its way to our processing plant where it will get processed further. And with this happening, SARCAN depots all across the province every day, full trailers are being swapped out for empty trailers constantly. We ship around 5,000 trailers filled with containers every year. Now that sounds like a lot of containers. Well, that's because it is. SARCAN has one of the highest return rates in Canada. Out of all the cans and bottles that are bought in Saskatchewan, 85% of them are recycled at SARCAN. But how many is that actually? Well, it is close to 500 million containers diverted from landfills every year. With numbers that big, it's hard to even imagine them. I guess another way to say it would be to say that many containers being diverted from the landfill weighs about the same as 65 747 jets. Or how about this? All of the containers SARCAN gets in a year weigh about the same as 4,000 elephants. Even that might be hard to imagine. So let's just say SARCAN recycles an enormous amount of containers.
All right, and that's all we got for the depot side of things. Let's head over to our processing plant where we find out how these containers take one step further on their journey to becoming brand new things. After the recycling technicians at the depots have counted, sorted, and loaded your cans and bottles, they are shipped here using SARCAN's very own fleet of transport trailers. Here at the processing plant, trailers are continually being emptied and then shipped back out to the depots to get refilled. On average, we do about 5,000 of these trailer switches every year. SARCAN has over 180 trailers in our fleet to make sure that we never run out and our depots will always have a trailer ready for them to fill. Naturally, the first thing to do once a full trailer gets to processing is unload it. The processing staff begin to take all of the full totes, bins, pallets off of the trailer to get it ready to be weighed. While the depots work with the total number of containers, processing works with the total weight of the containers. This is because all of the markets that SARCAN sends their material to all pay per pound of material. Once they have pulled the material off of the trailer, they will signal what type of material is about to be weighed to the scale house operator, who will then record the material type and its weight. Once the weight has been recorded, an all clear signal is given to the staff on the floor, who will then take the tote, bin, or pallet over to the next stage in the process. For the electronics, paint, and refillable beer bottles coming in from the depots, there isn't anything extra that needs to be done to send it downstream. They are ready to go out as is, so they come off one trailer, get weighed, and get put right back on another trailer. All of the glass that SARCAN gets has to be crushed before it gets shipped out. For this, SARCAN has large, specialized machines that crush it. As you can imagine, this process is incredibly loud and can get quite messy. So to keep our employees safe, this is all done in a closed-off room, referred to as our glass house. That minimizes the noise level and keeps any little pieces of glass that might get spit out of the crusher contained. This crushed glass is then taken by a conveyor to an outdoor bunker where it is stored until it can be shipped out. For the rest of the containers they receive at the plant, they use a series of conveyors to move the material up to an elevated sort belt above the storage cages. Well, all except for one type of container, aluminum. Because of the sheer volume of aluminum that comes to SARCAN, it has its own conveyor that takes it directly to a baler. This conveyor and baler combo needs to run almost constantly to keep up with the amount that is coming in from the depots. Everything else is taken up to the elevated sort belt by the large conveyors. Once up there, the processing staff do a quality control sort to make sure that no stray bottles have made it into the mix. Once again, this step ensures that the material that SARCAN sends to our downstream markets is incredibly pure and can be used in high-quality Second Life products. After it has gone through the quality control process, it is diverted off the belt into the cages where it is stored. These cages are huge, allowing the processing plants to handle the large volumes of containers that come in from all over the province. Each of the cages has a release valve on the bottom that, when opened, will drop the containers onto yet another conveyor belt that will take it to the last stage of the processing plant, the baler. Just like flattening the containers at the depots to maximize the use of space on the trailers during shipment, the processing plant also compacts the material. Although, they take it a step further than just flattening them by squeezing the material into bales. Now this really maximizes the space on the trailers. A single bale of aluminum can contain up to 33,000 cans. If you drank a can of pop a day, it would take you 90 years to drink as many cans as that one bale has. The plant has two balers, the aluminum baler, which is running continually, and another one for everything else. A baler operator keeps a close eye on the cages and switches the material getting baled depending on which type of material they have the most of. These skilled operators can pull this switch off midstream without even having to shut anything down. This ensures that the whole process is streamlined and very efficient. And it has to be. Over 148,000 pounds of containers are being recycled every day. After they are made, these bales are stored right here at processing until they can get shipped out. One of the supervisors at the plant monitors how many bales of each type of material are in storage. Once there are enough bales to fill a trailer, our supervisor lets the downstream markets know. Then that trailer load of bales is taken on the last stage of turning this stuff into new products, the actual recycling of the material. Because of the detailed sorting done at the depots and the quality control and consolidation of the materials at the processing plant, this material doesn't require any further preparation at these facilities. As soon as they get it, it is ready to be recycled. And all of SARCAN's material stays in North America so it can be made into new things right here. The aluminum all goes to Novellis in Kentucky, where it is melted down and then poured into large molds before being rolled out flat and made right back into aluminum cans. From the time that it leaves SARCAN, this aluminum could be back in can form, filled with a beverage, and on the shelf ready to be bought again in as little as 6 weeks. PET gets sent to Merlin Plastics in Calgary, Alberta. Here, it gets turned into either plastic flakes, pellets, or fiber. Manufacturers can then use these to make new products like turning the flakes and pellets into pop bottles or other food containers. And the fiber gets used to make carpets, pillows, or even clothing. The other plastics, like HDPE and LDPE, also get shipped to Merlin Plastics, although this time it's sent to a facility in Delta, BC. Both of these plastics have a wide variety of applications, all the way from industrial application to food packaging and other consumer goods. Aseptic containers, better known as juice boxes, are sent to Des Moines, Iowa, where they are turned into extremely durable roof boards by a company called Continuous Materials. The cartons, which are gable-top containers, get shipped to Sheboygan, Michigan, where they are hydropulped and then used to make napkins and paper towels. Our clear glass stays right here in Saskatchewan, with it being sent to Potters in Moose Jaw, where it is added to the highway paint, which makes it reflective. There is over 5 million pounds of SARCAN glass on Saskatchewan roads every year. The colored glass gets sent to Vitreous in Airdrie, Alberta, and gets used to make fiberglass insulation. Tin cans also stick around our own backyard, going to Evraz in Regina. They melt it down and use it as a deoxidation agent in the steelmaking process.
All right, and on that note, I think that that's a perfect place to end our tour. I hope you learned a lot more about SARCAN and how we do everything here. Thank you for stopping by, and happy recycling.